As a landlord, owning rental property can be a very lucrative venture. We all know this. But it also comes with its share of risk and challenges. Now, when we consult with landlords, we often hear them saying how afraid they are of getting a bad tenant. That's probably their biggest fear. And what we're talking about today is what to do if you end up having to evict a bad tenant. What are the steps you need to take? What's everything around it that you need to consider so that you can make sure that it happens the way you want it to happen? My name is Sue Richey. I'm the owner of a residential property management company, and we have helped many landlords evict bad tenants and get back on track with a good tenant who's paying the rent and taking care of the property. So whether it's due to non-payment of rent or property damage or just general lease violations, evicting a problematic tenant can be complicated and very time consuming if you don't know what you're doing. You want to make sure that you have a very thought out strategic approach to handling this eviction process and that you make sure that you are complying with all the legalities that are in place in your local area. So today we're going to talk about 3 steps that you want to consider and that you want to take when you're looking to evict a tenant. First, you want to make sure that you understand the local laws and how they relate to eviction and the timeframes associated with it. Next, you want to make sure that you have really read through your lease agreement and understand that you have a valid reason for the eviction. And lastly, we want to discuss the process of actually serving that notice of eviction to your tenant. First, let's talk about reviewing and making sure you understand local laws related to eviction. I talk a lot on this channel about educating yourself as a landlord, but eviction doesn't happen every day and it's not something you do. So most people don't know all the ins and outs related to an eviction process. So first you want to familiarize yourself with what the laws are, because they can vary from state to state, they can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, even in your local area. So make sure you understand what's happening where your property is located. You can find information on a lot of county websites on the eviction process and what the laws are. And what these laws do is they will outline the grounds for eviction. They're going to tell you all the necessary steps to take regarding eviction and also outline the responsibilities of both landlord and tenant. Okay, number 2, make sure you have a valid reason for eviction. This is where your lease is really important. You want to read through that lease and make sure that you have a valid reason for this eviction. There are a number of reasons that you could evict a tenant. They could not be paying the rent. That's one of the most common things we think about. There could be illegal activities going on in the property. There could be property damage. There could be unauthorized pets or unauthorized occupants. Anything like that that's outlined very clearly in your lease. You want to make sure that the tenant has actually violated one of those terms and conditions. That violation would warrant an eviction. So it's really important that you make sure that you have a valid reason based on your lease and the local laws so that you don't run into disputes or complications down the line that would prevent you from actually getting the eviction later because you didn't have a valid reason. So make sure you read your lease very, very carefully and have that reason clearly outlined. Okay, and number 3 is to send an eviction notice. So you want to send this notice as outlined by your local laws and within the time frame and making sure that it has all of the necessary information. You may want to consider hiring an attorney to help you with this just to make sure that you do it absolutely correctly. Now, this notice should state the grounds for eviction. It should also, if applicable, outline what that violation, the specific term in the lease that they violated, and it should also give them the time frame from in which they need to vacate the premises. And I can't stress enough how important it is that you make sure you do this exactly right and comply with all the laws so that your case doesn't get dismissed down the road because you didn't do this exactly as you should have. And if you really don't know how to do this or you're not sure you're doing it right, then I would tell you hire an attorney. I know no one wants to spend the money to hire an attorney, but not getting a bad tenant out of your property can cost you way more money. And we have within our company the services of an attorney who specializes in evictions, and he's helped a number of clients and people who have come to us with bad tenants, he has been able to help them get a bad tenant out and get through this process much easier than them having to try to do it themselves. And it becomes a very stressful situation. And sometimes when you just don't know things, it's really just better to get the advice of a professional, pay them, and move on and get a good tenant who's going to take care of your property, pay the rent. Everyone's much happier. So while eviction can be complicated, there are people out there who can help. Just make sure that if you are going to do it yourself, make sure you know what you're doing, make sure you comply with the laws. And if you live in Virginia, I have a guide to the eviction process in Virginia. You can find a lot of this information online as well, but feel free to download that and you'll have just an outline of what you need to do in this process. I'm not an attorney, so this is not legal advice, but it's just helpful information and an overall process to help guide you. But again, get professional advice if you need it. And if we can help you in any way, feel free to ask questions. I'll give you references. We can point you in the right direction and give you some other professionals who may be able to help. So thanks again for watching. See you later.